Hello and welcome to the Team Conti Sim Performance Track Guide. This is 2024 Season 2 Week 4 at the famous Martinsville Speedway in the NextGen Cup car. Michael Conti here again to give you all a quick guide on how to attack Martinsville Speedway. So Martinsville is one of my favorite tracks in the circuit. Love the technical aspects of it, love how much the driver can make a difference here and how you attack this place. So we'll go over some things to look for, I guess you could say, over the course of this 30-lap run. You'll notice that we're shifting on both ends of the track. That's going to be pretty common, I would say, across the board this week, given the lockdown rear end gear rules we have now. I don't think there's really any way around shifting. So third to fourth gear all the way around this place throughout the run, up to fourth down the straightaway. Braking just past the black NASCAR sign on the entry to turn 1 with a good amount of initial brake pressure. Really try to get as much of your initial braking done as straight as possible down into the entry. Definitely trailing a bit of brake into the center of the corner, so trail braking here this week as we would do at most short tracks. So you're just carrying a bit of brake into that center, into that minimum roll speed point at both ends of the track. Big crank a wheel as we get to our minimum rolling speed there. That's critical to making speed at Martinsville, is that tug of wheel as you get to your slowest point in the corner right there. Really helps that front cut, gives you a good opportunity to get up off the corner straight and with a lot of forward drive. 3 and 4 is a bit trickier than 1 and 2 in my opinion, and you can kind of see it right there. It seems like it's a bit of a sharper corner. I don't know if it truly is or not. I guess it probably is, considering it's a paperclip track. It's probably the sharper end, and it certainly feels like it. You get down here and it feels like you can start to hit the gas, but then all of a sudden the corner, continues to pull itself around to the left. So really make sure that you're not overshooting that center speed in 3 and 4. Same goes for 1 and 2 as well, but with 3 and 4 being a bit sharper, it's definitely more critical at this end of the speedway right here. And that brings me to my next point, where there are different lines that you can run around Martinsville. You think of this place, and on the surface you think, okay, I'm just going to put the left front on the curb, try to stay as close to that as possible. And that's definitely one option you have. But as the tires wear out, as the track rubbers up, which I think it will definitely do over the course of the week in these races, you're going to want to maybe open up that entry a bit, especially open up the center, and make sure that you get a nice straight run off the corner. You can see here about 9 laps into the run. We'll go outside the car for a second. You can see the goal is to get down to this curb and pretty much stay there for the most part, but even early in the run you can see I'm coming off the curb in the center, and that's to give myself the opportunity to put that additional wheel in it at the center without completely having to dump a bunch of speed out of the car. So in entering low and rolling up about a quarter car width or so, I'm able to roll a little bit more speed through the center, but then I'm also really able to get a nice straight exit back down the track. So see how the car is pointed back toward the bottom. Not going to quite get to the curb on exit, but you can see by the 3/4 mark of the corner, I'm much lower than I was at the center. So entering low, sliding up just a bit in the center, and then exiting low as well. That's going to be your most standard technique around here, but you'll see as the run goes on, and I'll briefly call it out here as we're outside the car, instead of aiming to get to the bottom here at entry, maybe I hold it out a little bit longer, and then I have more of an aggressive cut in the center back down the track on exit. That would be if you're starting to struggle for some center turn or maybe forward drive, so tight or loose, opening up that entry, rolling a bit higher in the center with a more aggressive cut on exit. That could help a number of different issues as the tires wear out. Similarly to the line that I'm running right now, instead of just stopping my ascent up the track, if you will, a quarter car width up the track, maybe as we get later into the run, maybe I go a half a car width up the track and I cut back down. Really at that point, rubber on the track and the way that the line has rubbered in is probably going to dictate where you can find the speed off the standard line. But moral of the story here is to not pigeonhole yourself into thinking that you just can only run one line, that being around the curbing. There are plenty of different options. As we go down into 3 and 4, we'll stay outside the car here so you can get a good idea of car placement into 3. So you can see, similar to 1, really getting low to that curb on entry, coming up off of it again, and rolling a bit slower than we are in 1 and 2 as well, again, because it is a sharper corner. You can kind of see the trajectory of the corner is a bit different. The shape of the corner is different. Really pulls itself to the left on exit. But either way, rolling up in the center, sliding up a bit, and then exiting low. So same thing in 3 and 4. Just a little bit slower in the center to make it happen. Up in the center, back down and exit. You can see that was a bit higher in the center that time versus the lap before. Just really trying to brake as straight as possible. And if that means that I have to carry the thing up the track a little bit to prevent having to crank additional wheel on entry while I'm still braking with a lot of pressure, I'm going to do that. You can see past 10 here, I'm starting to get more aggressive with that track up, or that path up the track, rather. Just to really keep the front turning, to keep the rear under me. Very, very easy to get the right rear slipped out on entry on both ends if you try to pinch off that entry point, try to hold it too low. And once you get on that right rear, it's really hard to get back off of it. And the more you do that throughout the run, the more you overuse the right rear. You know, this week the tire wear is not extreme by any stretch. You know, you're wearing maybe 2-3% for 30 laps. Temperatures are in the low to mid 200s. So you would think that you don't have to really do any type of tire management here, but you still do have to look after them a bit. Overdriving unnecessarily will definitely put extra stress into the tires, and naturally that'll hurt your long run. Will you get a long run this week at Martinsville? They will be far and few between, but when you do get a long run, you as the driver will make the difference on how well you do past 30, and I think that's where a lot of time can be made up if you get to that point. Hopefully we do. Long runs are fun here, it gets the field strung out, and it's a good thing to be a part of. 15 laps in, as you can tell by the lap times, if you've been paying attention to those, not a whole lot of fall off yet. About a tenth-ish, tenth and a half off the decent laps to start there. Watch that wheel input, big crank in the center, and then importantly after that crank, when you start introducing that throttle and exit, make sure you start straightening that wheel out. Big tug of wheel right here with a bunch of throttle will really upset the front of the car, and it'll get pretty tight first, and then it'll snap on exit. Need to drive this thing as straight as possible. Used to be the way in the Gen 6, but even more necessary now with this Gen 7. The lack of side force and low profile tires, you really don't want to slip that rear too much, so that's really precipitating a lot of these driving techniques, you know, just having to try to keep it as straight as possible. Early downshift on entry, reason being is to utilize that engine braking to help slow the car down. Talked about that quite a bit at Richmond. That's still the case here. Same philosophy behind that. The way you drive it over the course of this 30 laps doesn't change too much. Like I said, you'll probably start to open up your entry to center a bit. Have to be a little bit more careful putting down the power on exit as the grip fades away. But ultimately, what you do on lap 1 should be pretty close to what you do through 30. On a clean track anyway, can't stress that enough. Rubber makes a big difference here. For 20 complete, still in the mid to high ones. 2s would be good too. Just kind of depends on how fast you fire off. You can see a little bit of slip in the rear right there. The last couple laps of this run, I definitely struggled for rear grip, and I attribute that to not really managing the rear tires throughout the first 10 laps. So just again, make sure you're not driving unnecessarily aggressively or just hard early on. If you have track position and you're up front, take care of the car. If you're in the back, then do what you got to do, but don't push any more out of it than you have to, even if the tires say that they're not really wearing, they are wearing, and the grip is falling off. Nice straight entry down to the bottom in 3, slide up in the center, back down on exit. Looking at these minimum corner speeds, 65 miles an hour, 24 laps in 1 and 2. At the same in 3 and 4, but 65 miles an hour. Look at brake pressure this time by, initial brake pressure, about 50%, quickly trailed off to 25. Then hold a smidge through the center. Same thing into 1 and 2, similar initial brake pressure and really just a similar cadence with which you release the brake. But super important to be aggressive with that initial brake pressure so you're not overshooting the entry speed. If you find that you're locking up, then first thing to look at is, okay, are you braking in a straight line or are you trying to turn in while you hold that brake? So make sure that that's correct. You can always play with brake bias in these cars or master cylinders as well. With people on different equipment at home, you know, maybe my master cylinders don't work for you or my brake bias doesn't work for you, and that's fine. But braking is critical to making time here, so you have to be comfortable in your brakes. If you are not, work to fix it. Coming to start, lap 29 right here in the 19.3s. Approaching about 4/10 of fall off for 730 laps. Well under a half a second. Really starting to fight for rear grip right here like I talked about before. Just trying to get everything I can out of it by the end of this 30, but certainly in a race setting I would not be fighting this thing so hard. I'd probably just concede that I don't have the grip and just back the pace down a bit. Into 3 early entry again. Slide up in the center. Bring it down and exit. And that completes 30 laps of Martinsville. So, like I mentioned before, surface level with this track, it seems like you just run the bottom, go really deep into the corners and try to smash the gas down as hard as possible on exit to make time. It's not the case. A lot of technique is required here, a lot of finesse, a lot of the time comes from braking. A lot of time comes on entry. But there's a point at which you can start to overdo it on entry, and that'll kill your center and exit. But then you also can't be so tentative on entry that you don't roll enough speed in, because you won't ever have that opportunity to make up for all of that time lost on entry, center off, just because of how tight these corners are. So you're definitely going to have to charge. You're definitely going to have to be a little bit uncomfortable in your braking, but to that same effect, you need to be comfortable in your braking so you can maximize the time that you can get out of this car without locking the left front or kind of getting it on the right front, sliding the right rear, which you'll feel at some point this week. So definitely a tough track, but that's one of the reasons why I love it. It's just super technical, and it's been on the schedule forever, and it's truly stood up to the test of time with different cars and drivers and everything. It's really a staple on the NASCAR schedule, and it's a great place in the sim, great place in real life, and I always enjoy when we come here. So with my thoughts aside, I just want to thank you all once again for taking the time to listen to this track guide, hoping that these are helping you all out so you can fire off as best as possible when the week starts. We got a couple days before it starts, so plenty of time to practice and iron it out. If you're part of our Team Conti group, definitely reach out with any questions or issues you may be having. We're all here to help you and further your progress on the sim. Thanks once again for listening. Good luck at Martinsville, and we'll see you next time.